Hello, it's week 2 of season 5 of the Andy Griffith Show. This week's episode title is Barneys Physical. Who better to tell us about that than Barney?
I come into the courthouse one morning, and after a while, I tell Andy that it looks like he forgot that it was 5 years ago today that I joined the sheriff's office. I say, you'd think that'd be the kind of day that you'd remember right off the bat. It just happens to be a pretty important day in my life. Just forget it. Let's consider the subject closed.
But after a while, you bring up the subject again anyway. You tell Andy that one of the best parts of these 5 years has been the opportunity to work with him, and he doesn't respond much to that, so you get mad.
Yeah, I say, well, don't get overly emotional about it. Though you're really a sentimental one, aren't you? And then he sends me out to fix a dent white toast, and I say, spend 5 years in the place, it's like nobody ever noticed.
And then after you leave, the audience sees Andy call Aunt Bee and say, let's have Barney's surprise party for his 5-year anniversary a little bit earlier in the day today. He's pretty upset. So they hadn't forgotten about you after all.
Yeah, that party really cheers me up. After I come in from having fixed that dent white toast, Aunt Dee and Thelma Lou and Floyd and Opie all come out with a cake yelling surprise. Andy's not there. He had to go to a meeting in Mount Pilot. And they all give me a watch with an inscription of 5 on the back. 5 for 5 years.
And then Andy comes in from his meeting in Mount Pilot toward the end of the party, and he tells you what he learned in that meeting, some bad news, that from now on all deputies have to be 5'8" and 145 pounds minimum, even ones that are already on the job.
And I say, 5 years. For what? To get tossed out? 5'8". What do they want, a basketball team? It's the record that counts. I mean, you just don't get a waterproof wristwatch if you're not doing your job. Just forget it. They might be doing me a favor, 'cause I've been getting the feeling that I've been in some sort of a rut around here anyway. But then Aunt Dee says that she can fatten me up, and Andy says that he can put me in a stretching harness that Asa used for a back injury. And I say, Andy, are you out of your mind? Stretch me? The answer is no. A big definite no. The whole idea is just crazy. But then he convinces me to try it. So he and Aunt Dee feed me real well. And then Andy says, we'll start first thing in the morning with the stretching.
So Andy and the doctor put you in the stretching harness in a closet at Andy's house. And then Opie charges some other boys a nickel each to come look at you, because they think you might be hanging yourself.
And I see them looking at me, and I say, hey, you kids, get on out of here. What's the matter with you? Haven't you ever seen a person with his head in a harness before? And then Thelma Lou comes by to visit, and to bring me a malted milk with 2 raw eggs in it, so I'll gain some more weight. And I try the harness for a few more days, and after a while, it turns out that I am 5'8" now. And I still got 2 days to put on another pound and a half. At the supper table with Aunt Dee and Andy, I'm trying to do that, but then I get the hiccups. And I can't eat while I got the hiccups, and they last for a long time. And after a couple days, I have to tell Andy, well, when you go into Mount Pilot tomorrow, you might as well just look for another deputy. I'm down 2.5 pounds. So when the morning comes for the weigh-in and the height measurement, I'm expecting to lose my job. And so I start to turn in my equipment, but Andy gives me a huge heavy chain to wear under my shirt to hold up my ID tag, 'cause the rules said I could wear an ID chain. And I made weight, and I kept my job.
So the next day, Andy welcomes you back to the force and gives you your gun holster back and says, come on over to our house for supper tonight to celebrate. But then you get the hiccups again. We'll see you next week for episode 3.